This really is the beginning of a new era, and I think beginning is an important part of that sentence.
This is the first time I think that, in a long time that Bungie has stood kind of on its own.
And we're self-publishing. It's a really big deal. There's a huge opportunity here for us to really make our own decisions.
It's a turning point for us.
We are in charge of our own destiny.
It's empowering and terrifying at the same time.
There are only two groups who are going to decide what happens to Destiny next: Bungie and the players who play Destiny.
Destiny 2 released in September 2017 on console, followed by PC in October. In just 1 month's time, the console population dropped from 3.5 million concurrent players at launch to just 1.5 million concurrent players. According to Natalie Clayton of PC Games Insider, a Destiny tracker sampling from 1 week prior to Forsaken September 4th, 2018 launch saw 1.2 million players across all activities. 1 week after the Forsaken launch, the number of players rose to 3.9 million players. And that is when I developed my obsession to Destiny. Destiny Tracker has since been disallowed from publishing these numbers because Bungie felt that the player base was misinterpreting them. So there are some data discrepancies based on how they were reported. For example, our Year 1 Red War numbers are concurrent and are only from console. But I think our Forsaken numbers are daily players across platforms. Either way, all of the numbers that we're using can give you a general idea of what's going on with the Destiny population. Shadowkeep launched on Steam in October 2019, and we now have consistent data samples to the present day. It was a rocky experience with lots of server lag, but Shadowkeep launched Destiny 2 into Steam's top 5 with a Steam all-time peak of 292,000 players and 165,000 average players throughout the month of October. The peak players numbers didn't break 200,000 again until the following summer, when content creators like me began helping newer players complete all the raids and other activities to complete their Moments of Triumph seal prior to Beyond Light's release. That was an amazing season, and I absolutely loved playing the older content, as the Forsaken era is my favorite. I still feel that spark of joy when I venture into the Forsaken world, but I don't get that from the content that was released on Steam. Moving forward, Beyond Light released in November 2020 with a peak of almost 242,000 players. While a respectable release, it's still 50,000 less than Shadowkeep. Even with seasonal releases, some of which had some excellent content in spite of their faults, the peak numbers have not broken 200,000 since Beyond Light's release. And this summer, in 2021, peak numbers are only half of what they were in 2020. This should prompt one to ask, what happened?
With Forsaken, we've started finding more ways for players to customize and personalize their character and differentiate themselves. Shadowkeep's going to push even further in that direction.
The word, which is really guiding us in a bunch of ways, is depth. It's about experiential depth. When we look at how we're thinking about the next 3-5 years, it's really important to us.
It's cool to have a game that you can invest in with your friends, tweak your monster killing machine and make it 2% better every weekend, doing different things and figuring out how to craft this perfect build that you feel like is your own. That is cool. There's nothing nerdy about it. We're happy to own that. We're going to stand on that corner.
One of Bungie's greatest talents is hype. While I'm always skeptical of change, I, along with many others, had just come off of this amazing one-year high called Forsaken. The seasonal content was amazing, even Season of the Drifter, the season of Too Much Gambit. But Gambit brought with it amazing weapons and some of the best quests and lore in the game. Season of the Forge was my favorite as I immersed myself in the world of the Black Armory and collected all of the curated weapons. I still have them, and they are a lot of fun to this day. Finally, Season of Opulence brought Year 2 to a close with one of the best matched activities, the Menagerie. Of all of the 6-man seasonal activities, this is the only one I actually liked enough to grind over and over. Bungie just couldn't meet the quality and fun of the event, probably because the mechanics in the game began to change with Shadowkeep to something more annoying rather than fun.
Year 3 is the beginning of us really looking at Destiny from its heart out. We want to build Destiny for its core fans. We want to make sure that we're building it for the people who love it.
It's trying to make sure that players feel like they're on this journey with us rather than us dictating what they're experiencing.
But you're going to build a bunch of cool rewards, and then, if you don't get roles that you like, you're going to go back to the rune table and you're going to make more. And that's part of being a Shadowkeep player. It's building your character your way.
The biggest game changer was the seasonal artifact. It contained mods that had to be applied to weapons, so instead of a boss spec, for example, you would apply an anti-barrier mod. And since these mods were applied to weapons, most exotics were practically useless in seasonal and endgame content. The result was a highly restrictive game that prevented build versatility. I used the same 8 weapons for an entire year, even though I wanted nothing more than to switch it up. While Bungie was selling this idea of build customization and playing your way, the reality is that the seasonal artifact was just another way to not only control the meta, but place a tight grip on it. If you didn't use what the artifact required, you weren't completing activities. With the release of Beyond Light, Bungie changed the artifact weapon mods to armor mods, which made exotics useful again. And while this might have squashed the meta in favor of build diversity, they tightened their fists even more by sunsetting most of our armories. The meta was strong once again simply because endgame content players didn't have many weapons to choose from between the artifact and sunsetting. In fact, after abandoning Recluse for the greater part of a year in favor of a solar SMG, I suddenly found myself needing a Void SMG, but there wasn't one that could be brought to current level. More and more players began speaking out against Bungie's advertising lies regarding playing the game your way. In fact, we were forced to play Bungie's way. Not only were our weapons sunset, but our paid content was sunset. Some Twitter idiot told me that Red War was sunset because no one was playing it. Well, genius, no one was allowed to play it. Once you played through the campaign on all 3 characters, you couldn't play it again. And while the release of Forsaken gave us quests to replay the campaigns from year 1, once we played them, we couldn't do it again. Bungie's micromanagement approach is one of the biggest reasons why PvEers are getting bored with the game, and PvPers are always complaining about metas. But metas don't happen just because someone found a great weapon. No. Metas happen because Bungie forces them, and they also force which activities you play by reducing or eliminating reward value for older activities. And, as we've already seen, they will even remove DLC content you paid for. Upcoming videos in this series will cover more in-depth topics about Destiny 2 and what Bungie could do to make the game great again.
The single evolving world is one of the biggest changes that we're going to make over time to Destiny. Getting to that single evolving world is asking us to kind of unlearn a bunch of the things that we've learned.
Forsaken broke a bunch of the bones that we had set, with Destiny 2. What we've been able to do this year is reset them. Are we done? No, not even close.
you'd like to support this channel, liking and commenting on the videos tells YouTube to share these videos with others who may find them useful. If you'd like to provide monetary support to help keep this channel up and running, visit my locals and subscribe star communities.